Hey, what's up guys? JB here. So I'm back again today with another character review for War of the Visions. Took a little break there over the holidays, but I'm happy to get back to it today with none other than A2. Yes, Nier Automata has finally returned to our game. And bringing it with the character here, I know many of us have been waiting for with great anticipation. So let's not beat around the bush, let's get right into it and let's see what this unit is all about. A2 will be joining War of the Visions as a 100 cost ice unit. She wears not much of anything really, but you can opt for cloth, hats, or accessories if you choose to do so. She is going to be part of that ice element, which really has been struggling in the metagame for quite a while now. And she's also going to be part of the Greatsword weapon group, which has actually been getting quite a bit of love as of late. Taking a look at the stats here for A2, we're going to have a very strong stat line across the board, particularly from a base perspective. She's at an average level or well above in every major category, with the standouts there being her base HP and base attack. When we do consider her board for the innate stat values, it is her dex, luck, and agility which are getting a big boost, and putting her within very good company when it comes to her speed and accuracy. Now A2 does have an agility passive as well, which you can opt to use, and if you do, it does have her within the top 20 fastest units in War of the Visions. Moving down now into the defensive picture, A2 is coming in with 0 defense and 8 spirit. We're going to have 15% slash resistance, 30% magic resistance, and then an incredible 35% base pierce resistance. So very strong here when it does come to her positive mitigations. She does have 2 damage type weaknesses though to be aware of, 5% against strike, and then a -10 there against missile type damage. Her ailment resistances are going to be 50% against charm and then stun. Stun resistance in particular, it's being somewhat rare amongst units in the game. And it's going to be a major help in that VV matchup currently, where he does have that very high chance to stun on his limit burst. Now lastly, she does have 10% against confuse as well, which always seems to be hanging around, always seems to be a relevant one. For her mastery ability, she's going to be picking up a bit of AP management here with the 30% acquired AP, and then that 20% slash res penetration. Always nice to see those penetration values there baked right in. If you do opt to bring her up to level 140, she's going to be picking up these damage type resistances, which were factored into those totals there that we just looked at. She is also picking up 15% unit resist here on top. Again, something that you always love to see here. Now, I think for most situations, you're probably going to be using these 2 passives, which I've highlighted here. It's giving her some additional penetration, some AP management, and some accuracy. I think though that if you are able to find a replacement for that defense penetration, she does have several other useful passives, including some area resist and agility, which you can opt to bring in. So she could be a good candidate for an Esper like Ultros, for example. Now lastly, for a counter ability, she does come in with Reflex. To this day, still one of the best ones ever in the game. Now let's get into the bread and butter here. Let's take a look at her main job skills. And we're going to start off with the buffs. Her self buff is going to be her main source of survivability, giving her a 50% 3-hit physical barrier, in addition to one of the newer defensive effects, which is that area attack guard. And that mitigation does scale with the size of the area of effect for up to a 35% total protection. Does work against either physical or magical attacks. Now her party buff has got quite a bit going on here. She's going to pass that 25% agility onto her allies, while also giving herself several other effects here. She's going to pick up that haste dispel on hits, very important utility with so many people running those haste TMRs out there. Now in addition to that, she's also going to be bestowing onto her hits the capability to seal your opponent's ability to remove barriers. Now that is a newer mechanic that we did see just introduced on Winter Ramada's Limit Burst upgrades, and it doesn't matter what style of barrier it is, they won't be able to break it, so that is very, very strong. Now finally, she is going to be giving herself an enhanced version of re-raise on this buff here as well. So when she does get re-raise, she's also going to be picking up a buff, which is some agility and some accuracy there. So just a very loaded skill here, very, very strong. Moving down now into the attack abilities, her low AP skill is a range 2, range height 1 with that standard low 121% mod. Prior to the damage, this will lower the crit evasion of your target by 40. Not my favorite skill here, but it's really not all that bad. Essentially, it's just going to allow her to finish off some enemies with a slightly higher HP threshold in some situations, because she's essentially going to be able to guarantee a crit on that attack. Her second skill here is one of her marquee abilities, topping out at a range of 5 there on the large large diamond area of effect. It's coming in with that medium 165% modifier. Now prior to that damage, it is going to be dispelling courage from your targets, which is very strong utility to have in such a large area of effect. It is also buffing her defense penetration by 40 for 3 turns, so this is a skill that does potentially give you some flexibility there with that defense penetration passive that we talked about, which would allow you to bring in more survivability or speed into your builds. On the other hand, you can just leave it on and opt for that tank busting potential here. Now this skill is also a sequential ability, so she will heal herself and one other ally that is within a 4-tile radius of her, and that's going to be very similar to Ferris's sequential ability. This one though is a flat 30% heal. Now A2's third skill here is a straight line attack. It's a range 3 with a range height of 1. It's coming in with that large 200% mod. This one will dispel both protect and shell prior to the damage. Again, very nice utility here. It is a 2-hit chaining attack, and it does pick up an increased 30% chance to hit on top. So with the accuracy, sort of baked into her passives, as well as the active one here on the skill, A2 is definitely shaping up to be a very strong evade hunter. Now the fourth skill here has got some very long range attached to it, this one getting up to a range of 6 on the large cross AoE, coming in with that medium 165% modifier. Now prior to the damage, this does have an imperil attached to it as well. It will drop the target's area resistance by 60% of whatever their current value is. So this is essentially just like Helena's ability that we've seen recently in the game. Some people refer to it as that area resist shred. Now on top of that, this skill is also sealing off any counters or reactions from the targets. It is also picking up an increased chance to hit by 30%, just like the last one. And last but not least, this is also a damage absorption effect here of 30% of whatever your damage is. So if she is able to tag multiple enemies with this, it's not out of the question that she's going to be able to refill her entire hit point bar. So that was definitely a mouthful there. There's just a ton of utility here packed into the skill, and it's just that compression effect that we've been seeing on a lot of the recent units. I think by now with Helena in the game, most of us have seen the impact that imperil that she brings has, and A2's here is going to be no exception. It's going to be just as good. Now finally, we do have A2's Limit Burst. Once again, this is going to get up to that range of 6 on the large cross. This one is kind of a unique effect going on here. Enemies are going to be drawn into the center of the AoE, very similar to the Shadow Flare ability that is on the Black Rose of the Battlefield Vision card. This one does also roll 2 different status ailments, having a 45% chance to both slow and immobilize the targets. And if you do land one of those ailments, there is a conditional debuff here on top of it, which will reduce up to 75% of their total slash resistance. So this is the slash version of that area resistant peril that we were just talking about. A bit of RNG here tied into this one, but if you are able to land one of those ailments, it is a very strong and dangerous ability. Now A2 is going to be coming in with her own vision card with the events. This one is a job-based hollow vision card. It's effective for the gun, Greatsword, and the Sword A Red Mage weapon groups. The party effects here are 42 slash attack, 16 pierce resistance, and the 20% area resistance. This one does also have that bonus hollow effect for Guild War mode of 18% element chain resistance. Pretty solid card here all around, no major complaints with it. It does also have 3 agility there baked into the base stats, which is always nice. Cards that do include that area resistance are generally recommended pickups from me as primo team enablers, ones that you can build around in your primary slots. Greatsword, though, does already have access to 2 different area resist cards, so that could certainly be a bit of consideration with this one. I would say, though, that if you are going all in for A2, I would definitely grab this one. It really helps boost her niche as that pierce resistant attacker as well, so that gives her some additional flexibility. I do think that the unit selection here is probably where the card shines the most. Immediately, I am drawn to that ice-water synergy with the various red mages, including Summer Glaciella there that could be that frontline tank for you. We do have some pretty nice mono-element ice synergy on the card here as well, as we do have probably the 3 most relevant damage dealers for the elements with the Ice Bros and Alaya. And then, of course, we do have the Greatsword angle here with this card, Astrius, Hio, Rain, Joom, and Esther. So I think there's some nice team building potential there, whether you want to be more anti-physical or anti-magical. Now diving in and looking at the Greatsword class as a group overall, we did just get Lightning Astrius here in Global recently, and he's certainly going to be a very potent partner with A2. I would say there's a pretty decent selection of overall units here within the group, as we kind of just touched on there in the last section. We do have access to a couple of different nice tanks, and a couple of pretty nice 70 cost options here within the group as well for those cost-limited situations. Now, card selection-wise, I do consider it a pretty strong group overall. It has got a lot of attention recently, and we're now up to 12 total cards here for the group. We do have multiple agility and area resist cards here. Really, the only thing lacking at this point is going to be that unit resist card. Not the end of the world, though. You know, we do have the ability to bring in that original Odin card to the group, and we can patch that in if we need to. Now, to this point, the key partners for Greatsword have been the Book, Devout, and Warrior groups, all sharing at least 3 cards or more. So I think there's definitely some nice synergies that you could play with in there and build some interesting teams. The Devout pairing, though, I would say is probably the strongest overall. There are some really nice supportive units that you could bring in from that group to help round out the team. Shawls or Soul, I think, are a couple that immediately come to mind. So let's take a look at some mock builds that I've put together here next. This first one's going to be a traditional mono-element build, and we're going to be doing it within the framework of an ice anti-magic team. So we're going to be doing that with one of my favorite all-time units, Freyevia, tanking out in front. She had an absolutely incredible limit burst upgrade here recently, and I've been using her to nice effect in the game since that point. Now the third unit here is a key one. Howlet the Fancy Blade has the ability to protect the team's magic resistance by reducing the enemy's penetration value. Now, as we saw in the stats overview, A2 does have a very strong base magic resistance value that you can build on. This team here also has an incredible amount of self-sustain. All 3 units are able to heal or support the team in some way as well. So I do envision this team performing very, very well against those magic-focused teams. For equipment here in the build, we're going to be bringing in the Nier Automata items, her unique Greatsword you can pick up, as well as the black cube that do come from the event. That one does have a couple of unique passives for A2, as well as giving her access to some nice magic resistance and some debuff weakening there as well, which is one of my favorite new stats in the game. Now A2 is what we do call a 2-buff unit, meaning that she does have 2 very strong buffs innately that she does want to get online, meaning that the TMR is just going to be a stat stick for you. And really, I'd say that is the case for most modern units now in the game. In this case, I am going to be bringing in Dialdo's TMR for that spirit and agility, but it is very replaceable if you don't have it. You can always bring in Ayaka's TMR there instead. For an Esper, I am going to be using Dark Bahamut for the magic resistance and the offensive bonuses. As I mentioned earlier, I do think Ultros is another great choice for her, and it does allow you maybe some more passive flexibility if you do use it. For the vision cards, just a standard ice setup here with the Dark Esper cards, which are going to be covering the 3 primary effects of agility, area, and unit resistance. For the Trust Stone loadout here, since we are going to be going up against that Black Mage team, we do want to try and cover against the sleep and status ailments. Remember that A2 did have the 50% innate stun resist value. We're going to be bringing that up to 75% here in the Trust Stones, and that's to completely nullify that effect on Vivi's Limit Burst and eliminate any potential RNG there. Now I'm going to be tying these passives into a spirit set, not only for the additional magic mitigation, but more so for that healing power bonus, which is going to enhance the overall healing from her absorb and sequential abilities. Now on the right side, we're going to be going with the agility set. It's just one that's always universally valuable. Some standard offensive bonuses are going to be baked in there, but we're once again going to be rounding that out with that additional healing power. Now I do have one more build here to quickly show you guys. This one is going to be built around that weapon card synergy for the Greatsword group. Once again, this is going to be an anti-magic focused team, but we are going to be leaning heavily into the accuracy for A2 here as well. Since the other 2 units in the group are Astrius and Rain, although they're very strong against magic damage, they are also incredibly inaccurate. So I'm going to be building upon that natural accuracy strength of A2 to help cover that overall weakness of the team. So to accomplish those build goals, we're going to be bringing in that accuracy accessory. In this case, we're going to use the white marshmallow, and that will be useful to protect against some meta status effects like Confuse, Sleep, and Poison. For the TMR, we're once again going to be using that as a stat stick here. And to this day, Ziza's Bells remains relevant and one of the most important TMRs for that agility and accuracy combination. For an Esper, we're going to be going with the Go tier, OG Odin, for the 22 accuracy and blind resistance. And then you can see the job-based vision card loadout here as well. With the group, we do have agility and area resist cards, but as I mentioned, no unit resist card for the Greatsword group. So again, we're going to be pulling in that OG Odin card here as well. It does actually work out very nicely though for this build. It will boost A2's accuracy with that Ice Elemental Party effect. For the Trust Stones here in the build, it's going to be very similar to the last loadout that we had. However, the set types have changed here. I have gone with luck and accuracy sets to help facilitate that build goal. So with that, you are able to see there in the stats on the left, she is going to be hyper accurate, getting up to a 426% raw hit rate. And then you can add on another 30% on top of that from those active abilities that she has. So with that kind of hit rate, she's going to have zero issues hitting any evade units really in the game. So what is my verdict today on A2? Starting with the positives, A2 is going to be a really good team enabler. She's bringing 2 percentage-based imperils for both area and slash resistance. She does also have the ability to cancel courage, reactions, and protect and shell effects as well. A2 has the capability to be built for very high accuracy while bringing multiple attacks getting up to a whopping range of 6 in those large area patterns. On the defensive front, A2 first and foremost does have re-raise built in, but she very much specializes against those pierce and magic damage types. On top of that, she does have access to both physical and magical barriers into her kit, and even more importantly has the ability to protect those barriers with her barrier removal sealing skill. So all of those things add up to her being a very capable all-around bruiser, and she's even rounding that out with some healing and sustain attacks that not only impact her but her allies as well with the sequential ability. On the more negative side, perhaps her biggest weakness is that she doesn't have any way to remove barriers herself. No general dispel attacks and no way to remove re-raise from her opponent either. I don't really knock her all that much for those things because, to be honest, not all units are going to have access to each and every ability. It is a very important consideration though, because that is certainly going to impact your selection of teammates for her to sort of round those capabilities out. Now, despite what I said there earlier about her being a very capable bruiser, she's certainly not going to be invincible by any means. As we noted, she does have 2 different damage type weaknesses with strike and missile, and she doesn't have any area resist innately unless you do opt to bring in one of those optional passives. At the end of the day, I do consider A2 a very nice character amongst some of the elite in the game. Perhaps not on the same level as an Elia or Helena, but to be honest, she's really not far off at all. She's very, very sound across the board, and I think that she's coming in not only as a top unit within her elements, but also within her job group as well. Yes, I do think that she's even better than Astrius. And A2 being a fan-favorite character and from a fan-favorite collaboration, I do believe we will be seeing a very large meta impact incoming with this unit. So there it is, guys. Those are my thoughts today on A2. I am super hyped for this collaboration. Without a doubt, Nier is one of my favorite gaming franchises. The aesthetic, the design, the music, it's all time as far as games go. I am definitely going to be going all in for this unit. It's been a tough year for Ice, to be honest, but A2 coming in I think will finally start to reverse course there for the elements after a particularly disappointing release in Celebratory Jaden. So that is my take today, guys. I want to know what you guys think now. Are you as hyped as I am for this collab? Are you going for A2 or are you going for 2P, who we will be covering next time here on the channel? Or are you going to be going for that whole collection? Definitely let me know in the comments down below. And that's really all that I have to say for today. So as always, stay safe out there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.